Just a quick note, make sure you stick around to the end of the video because towards the end is when we talk about the new DLC, The Three Fairies. What is up, you wonderful people? It is I, Nima. So today I'm gonna finally do a video that has been requested for quite a while. This is the all fixed up version of Baldo. After all the updates, all the patches, everything. And I've been working on this video for a while now, kind of off and on. But before we get into that, I do want to remind you guys to please hit that like and subscribe button. And all of my repeat offenders, I appreciate the heck out of you guys. You're amazing. So please hit that like button and help me out a little bit more. Anyway, Baldo launched and it was bad. This was one of those games that I think a lot of people who saw it were very interested in it, but the game flopped. It had a horrible launch and the game just seemed to be broken. And a lot of people basically thought that this game was dead in the water. But, you know, credit to the developer team of 2 people, by the way. They went through, listened to the community, listened to Mark from SwitchUp, and they fixed the game. And I would argue that this is a really good game now. Now, the developer team did release a statement about why the game launched the way it was and how they fixed it and why they fixed it. And I'm going to kind of go back and forth on their statements and also on the fixes and the ones that were really important to me. And the first one was navigation. Honestly, this was a huge problem for me because I didn't know where I was going half the time and the game gave you little to no help. Now, they argue that if this game had released now, after the likes of like Tunic and Elden Ring, that they feel like it would have been received a lot better. And that's the way they wanted it to actually be released. It wasn't a fault or anything that it had very little navigation or a guiding light or any help of that nature. But I would argue to them that Elden Ring actually tells you where to go if you want to continue the story. It just gives you the option to be able to explore as much as you want. And Tunic is a lot more linear than what Baldo is. Like, Baldo is really open and there is absolutely no help. Now, I will say that they did put a lot of stuff into the game that I appreciate. The mapping, navigating, all that is so much easier now. You can actually see different locations. You can see NPCs. You can see stores. You can see where you buy a map. You can tell what direction your character is facing, which is super important. You can even select different levels in maps, like in dungeons and stuff, and that's super, super helpful. Also, they added an assist mode, which kind of gives you a helping hand, direction to go, which, again, they kind of, they were combative about it, and they were kind of saying like they didn't want to hand walk you through the game, but I think it's really important in a game like this because there is so much other stuff to do. It is always nice to know that you're not going to get lost and you're going to be able to go back to, you know, actually finish the story or work on the story, at the same time be able to enjoy the open world and everything that's in there. Now, another big issue, maybe the game breaking issue when it launched, was the saving. It would save sporadically. Sometimes it would only save after like an hour or two. You'd be playing for a while and your whole save would be gone. And this was super frustrating, and for multiple reasons. One of them has to be because the difficulty was also really hard, but we'll get into that right after this. The way that they fixed the saving issue. Now, which I would have preferred if they would have had some sort of ability to save just whenever you wanted to, so you had that reassurance, but instead they decided to add in a save system every time that you enter a new area or a new screen, the game saves, which is good enough. Like, that's fine. And there again, on to the next one. The reason why the saves weren't so important is because the game was really difficult, and not in the same manner that, again, like an Elden Ring or something like that is difficult. It wasn't difficult because you had to familiarize yourself with the enemy's movements and you had to predict what they were going to do and fight back against it. No, it was difficult because the enemy could just one-shot you. That happened quite often. There was like these lizard creatures that you meet really early on in the game and they'll just one-shot you and you're dead. I don't know how many times in that game, in the initial launch, that I died over and over and over. Then you couple that with the saving thing and you're fed up with the game. But I would like to say that the combat in general has gotten so much better. The animations are a little bit better. Baldo now kind of steps in while he's swinging his sword. So when you're actually engaged in combat, you are more likely to hit your target than you are to just kind of run it. Like, it's hard to explain, but before, he would just move in and then swing. It was like a delayed swing, so you would always take a hit when you were trying to fight. And now that's completely changed, and the combat has gotten a lot easier. They've also done some other stuff as far as like your health meter and actually kind of helping you guide to side quests and things of that nature, which again was a big one for me because I like to have that direction. I like to have that guiding hand. Like, for me, it helps. It makes the game a lot more accessible and a lot more fun. I don't really want to play every game just exploring endlessly. Another issue a lot of people had with the game was the fact that there were some areas that looked to be accessible, but you would just die if you fell off a height that is too high. And sometimes you would die, sometimes you wouldn't. It was really unpredictable. Now, this still is that way, but you can actually, instead of getting like a game over screen, they'll just respawn you from where you shouldn't have fallen, which does help quite a bit. There is also the aspect of speed. Like, the pacing is a lot faster, and it's hard to explain in all of the ways that it is, but one of them is just traversing and walking, but the other one is fast travel. See, before it had a fast travel system, but it was so inconsistent and so sporadic that it really didn't help. And so instead, they decided to add a lot more fast travel spots. So it really does actually make sense to use the fast travel now. Another issue that we saw a lot of was crashing. And as far as I can tell, that doesn't exist anymore. All the stability patches and everything have really worked. And there has been no crashes, at least in any of my gameplays. And I would say, like, the first time I played it, it crashed a lot. Like, it was very noticeable. So if it does happen, I haven't come across it yet. I would also say that the dialogue itself, I feel like, has gotten better. Like, I can't say 100% sure that they did this, but it feels like they went back and added a lot more interactions with the NPCs that just weren't really there before or were kind of short-sighted. And again, that might just be the fact that I'm actually now enjoying the game instead of kind of anxiously like trying to rush through everything to figure out where I'm supposed to go and to figure out what the story was. Now, this is, for me, a case of the developers listening to the community, and for the best outcome possible, they didn't want to release the game the way it is now. They kind of had to take an L and say, like, what they envisioned was maybe not what they should have released. They even said, like, with the puzzles and things like that it would have been easier for them when they were programming it if they had made it a little bit, I don't know, easier to figure out. But they purposely went through painstaking measures to make it a game that doesn't hold your hand, does not help you through, does not guide you. And they kind of blamed the cutesy animation and the way that it was compared to Zelda in a lot of ways for that. But I argue against that as well to say that, no, it's not like holding your hand when you're just kind of prompted where to go next. It's a little bit of advice, but you still have a lot of puzzles to figure out. You still have a lot of side quests to figure out. And, like, the combat, which, you know, going back to that real quick, they had said, like, it wasn't supposed to be easy. It's not easy now, but before it wasn't because of a lack of ability that we died so often. It was because the animation was broke. It was because the game itself didn't deliver in its ability to have a melee sword fight without dying 100 times. But I actually think that it's cool that they did do this. And honestly, I think it shows a lot of growth that a two-person team worked their butt off to fix a game far better than we've seen it. Like, you can look at what Cyberpunk is and games that show up broken, but these guys, they busted their butt. They had already sold a fair amount of copies, so they kind of didn't need to be honest. But not only that, they swallowed their pride. And they said, okay, maybe what we envisioned wasn't the game that we should have made. And by doing what they've done, they've proven that they can withstand criticism, that they can turn a bad thing into a really good thing, and that they can continue to listen to the community and actually make a game that we all want to play. And I would say, like, this game has definitely done that 180. It is far more fun than it ever was, and a game that, since I've been playing it, I've been really addicted to. It's been super fun. I've been playing that and Neon White, like, constantly honestly, to like a detriment because I have other games I need to be working on. I will say this as well. So all the video that I'm going to show is from the very first part. So they did add a DLC for free, and it's about a 7-hour campaign. It's called The Three Fairies, and it's essentially like a welcoming. So instead of it being a DLC that you'd play at the end of the game, it's one you play at the beginning of the game. It explains a lot of the lore of Baldo and the village and the people, and really breaks down the game as well, kind of gives you a good tutorial. Each dungeon becoming more and more difficult. I absolutely adored what they did with this because it really did actually get you engaged in the story. Before, Baldo was kind of ominous. You didn't really know why you should care about this character or what's really going on. It was, I would say, not told in the best manner. But here, they give a lot of context, and again, I have to give it to them. They did it for free, and it was almost, not even almost, it was a thank you to all the people who purchased the game at launch. Before the first update, I believe, the game had sold like around 300,000 copies, which is a lot for an indie game. So they felt bad. And so they went back and they added this DLC as a free add-on, and a really good expansion. Honestly, really good expansion. So I'm just going to be showing that because that is at the very beginning of the game, or what should be at the beginning of the game if you're playing it organically. Again, I've been asked to do this video a bunch of times, and like I said, I've been working on it. You can even check in the comments. I've had this video planned for a while. I know Mark from Switch Up just released the same type of video because I think him and I were the only ones who really were talking about Baldo, and he addresses some other things that were a concern to him. I didn't address those things because for me it wasn't a problem. Like where the stamina gauge was, text size, and he had a few other things that he had a problem with, and he has a better connection with them as well. So definitely check out his video as well, because you also have him to thank for the fact that the game is on sale right now. The game is on a 30% sale, so it's a good time to pick it up if you've been waiting for it. It is now, I would say, that time that you should purchase it if you want to. It is really fun, and a game, honestly, at about 60 or 70 hours, and you won't regret it. You really won't. This one's good, and again, I think around here you can pick it up for like $15 to $17, something in that range. Don't quote me on that, but with that discount, which, like I said, does offer a lot, and I think it's something that we should all support because we are showing these indie developers that, hey, if you listen to the community, we will respond. And the way we can respond is with our dollars and with our attention. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys. You're amazing. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. We've got more videos coming out, I think, pretty much every week today, or every day this week, so it's gonna be crazy. Anyway, I love you guys. Like always, I'm wishing you health, wealth, and above all, I hope you're truly happy. Take care, guys.